Here we go. Thank you, Ishmael. Okay, that is glorious, actually. That's fun. Alrighty. Matthias Outis is one of the single most overloaded Sinner IDs that we've gotten. And this is in a season with 2 other Nursefathers and Roshu's ridiculous let me solo her Capstone. She sports 6 passives alongside her support passive, though as with Roshu, these may as well be over 20-something odd effects, with a whole bunch of unique buffs to boot. All of these culminating into one of the longer game plans in Limbus, with staggering amounts of extra effects and stable conditionals. She has multiple engines to take account of, but can fuel them quite well within her relevant teams. As she is a modern ID, it is best that we start with her passives. First is Smell of Blood and Fire. This is her shortest passive and works similar to Kira Ishmael, in the sense of having her thermal blades. In this case, it is regarding her identification as both a burn and bleed ID, alongside classing skills that inflict bleed as skills that also inflict burn once she has her first or second seal removed. Next is Sealed Sword Levantine. This details her unique ways of getting her engine running, that of which surrounds the Sealed Sword buffs as well as Rising Fever. Each of the Sealed Sword variants, all the way up to Levantine, offer differing effects, mainly as skill damage echoes on the final coin. Sealed Sword offers 2 haste on turn end, and buffs blunt base skills by bleed on targets. The final coin specifically does an on-hit damage echo so long as the target has over 20 bleed. This echo is in blunt damage. First seal removed does much the same but factors in burn instead, turning everything into a dual status conditional. We lose 1 application of haste, but make everything easier to handle otherwise. Second seal does the same as the first, but instead of blunt damage on the echo, deals slash damage on the echo instead. When we arrive at Levantine, we get a bunch of exclusive effects. First off, on turn start, we set everyone on fire with some burn. We then replace all of our base skills, with the Levantine exclusive ones for every single skill. We then get the buff from above, minus the haste. These are blunt damage based on dual status, and our damage echo becomes Pierce this time. All in all, these are some wild baseline buffs, especially in getting damage echoes pretty much for free. Anyhow, that's just the stuff related to the top line. Next block regards her ticking down engine, Rising Fever. This is a counter that loses a stack every time she uses her skill free, including by counter, and it also drops at turn end after we activate an NVA resin of 6 or more. Unfortunately, this is only happening once per turn. Once the stack drops to 0, she uses her skill free-free, a 4-coiner that does a stupid amount of benefits that we'll cover later. The main one to account for now is the removal of a sword seal after using the skill, before increasing Rising Fever again by an amount specific to each seal. This is entirely how we progress her sword seals, either through the usage of the skill free or getting a 6 NVA resin. This makes things particularly troublesome for team building, but not entirely fatal, so to speak. Mind you, this has quite a few unique extras tied to its activation timing. If Rising Fever ticked down after skill usage to the skill free, if it hits the threshold time to unpack, it will be used at skill end. Otherwise, if it hasn't been used while at the correct Rising Fever threshold, it'll get used at next combat start instead. At less than 80% HP, she will use time to unpack regardless of Rising Fever though. Beyond there, when below 50% HP, we gain 3 stacks of Ridiculous Grit. This is a stupid buff to survivability and even has damage conditionals tied to it. Upon obtaining it, resistances are fixed to normal. We do not take any amplified damage essentially. Beyond there, we take a significant amount less damage based on Vengeance tattoos. Then on top of that, on Clash Win, we heal extra SP. Furthermore, if she lost SP from skills this turn, out of which is very easy once we get to Levantine, she'll deal more damage the following turn using base skills. This effect only gets reduced on turn end, plus 3 turns of use due to happening only once per encounter. For more, we now get to her stagger cheats. Yeah, this is just first time stagger, recover at turn end, and gain 15. The middle grudge. This is a stupid amount to be gaining, it's maxing it out. This buff lets her deal more damage to Vengeance marked targets and is also used to cheat out her skill free. Uniquely, it does this at turn start, but only if the skill free isn't already in the relevant slot. That of course being the leftmost bottom row. Essentially, go use the damn skill free when you have access to it, because it pretty much is a freebie with how many ways we get to cheat this out. Next is Parenting. These are buffs unique to Kira Ishmael's presence on the field. On Clash Win, we get a buff called Check This Out Kiddo. We get more of this buff if this was gained via the first skill used on this turn. We also gain this buff when we hit anything with a skill, at least so long as it wasn't with a cracked coin. The buff's effects are 1 additional final power and up to 10% blunt skill damage, 1% per stack. We do lose a stack of this buff if we get hit twice, and the final power is only gained if we have 5 or more of it. This is pretty funky considering this essentially becomes a balancing act, especially with the middle's reliance on counters, all the more so with this ID to get Rising Fever sorted. Anyhow, these buffs are gained specifically when Kira Ishmael is on field, so when she disappears for whatever reason, we will stop getting said buff stacks. That said, while on the field, she can gain buffs as well. In this case, Kira Ishmael gets I Got Praised. This is obtained on Clash Win, more if it was the first skill in a turn. He also gains it on hit with her skills. If the skill was her skill-free counter, he gains even more. None for cracked Unbreakables though. This one is likewise final power and blunt damage while losing stacks when hit, mirroring the Nursefather. Again, a balancing act, but all things considered, since they're getting hits in with a counter anyway, it does balance itself out for the most part. Next, we move on to the obligatory Roshu Capstone clause for House of Spiders members. When defeated, Outis grants entanglements alongside a unique buff that lets Roshu take less damage as well as gain offense level up when hit. Since this is another point of string severance to boot, that's an extra coin to her skill 3-2, as well as 7.5% more damage reduction. Essentially, it's the good stuff. Damage reduction and more damage. Unique buff provides minus 20% damage reduction to boot. This is some ridiculous territory of damage reduction stacking at this point. Then comes Thanks Kiddo. This is essentially our friendly fire engine. It's some turbo jank, but also insanely funny. When under 20% HP, if an ally loses a clash, Outis will go ahead and slash into them and the enemy they lost against. She specifically uses her skill 3-4 to do this, meaning this whole affair only gets activated when Levantine is completely unsealed. The particular funny part about this is her application of burn to the whole team when she gets there, meaning this is something of an inevitability. Anyhow, Kira Ishmael has a different HP percent threshold for this effect at 30%. Middle members killed by this friendly fire grant her envy damage up on the following turn, while killing Kira Ishmael herself grants us a unique buff called Avenging My Family. Since we can't get any more Check This Out Kiddo, this essentially functions as its replacement. In this case, it's more envy-based skill damage and a final power to base skills. With Levantine out, this is everything getting this benefits. Finally comes her fueled passive, Book of Vengeance, the House of Spiders special clause. This one is the middle-coded part compared to Matthias specific. In this case, Vengeance mark on enemy that dealt the most skill damage to an ally. Also on turn end, we apply Book of Vengeance, House of Spiders on the units that dealt the most skill damage to Outis specifically. This Book of Vengeance debuff provides some extras, specifically healing Outis and Ishmael's SP on hits for 5 SP twice a turn, as well as granting additional stacks of the Middle Grudge for both Ishmael and Outis on hits. Beyond there, on combat start, she gains the Middle Grudge based on envy resonance. She also gains it when she gets hit, or when Kira Ishmael gets hit too. Even more so, she gains it when a middle ally is hit, and when a House of Spiders ally is hit. This condition doesn't stack with the previous ones that apply specifically to her and Kira Ishmael. Going even further beyond, if the source of the Middle Grudge has Vengeance mark, she gains an additional stack of the damn stuff. We're not done yet. She gains the Middle Vengeance tattoo Great Sister every time she consumes 5 of the Middle Grudge. This is a buff that grants final power for every 5 stacks and adds 5% to envy and blunt skills for every stack, capping at 50%. Let me stop you there. Hang on for just a fucking second. You're just selling us backdoor charge and painting it purple while making it better than charge. God damn it, why couldn't they have just made her and Kira Ishmael charge? Let us do charge envy instead of strictly middle envy. Let us have some flexibility. Oh, and finally, when Outis gets hit, Ishmael gains the Middle Grudge. Due to killing this Nursefather being relatively important, the support passive does indeed kick in. Plus, the benefit here is combat start. Allies that equip counter skills gain damage up and protection. If the allies from the middle, pop that to envy damage up. Since we can't really get a counter out of Roshu, this kinda goes to waste. Almost everyone else in the house though, they can benefit from those sweet extra damage and safety on counters if you wish to exploit it. Okay, we're done with the passives. This is an amount rivaling Roshu's Capstone, which is bloody insane. Not to mention, it's of course on an Outis. This thing is going to make Project Moon very, Very rich. Let's move on to her actual base skills. She has 9 of them. 8 of them are envy. A single one is lost. I'll do my best to speed through these. Let's start with the non-Levantine stuff, which we will always see. Skill 1 is Stomping. This one is a 2-coiner with a dual status burn and bleed coin power conditional. There's 2 extra on-use conditionals to boot. The first one checks for the middle vengeance tattoo and grants an unbreakable to the second coin if she has it. This is surprisingly relevant this time and isn't just a random extra. The second on-use heals her SP for free. The first coin deals bleed counts and raises stagger threshold, the funny tremorless tremor. The second coin does bleed potency and furthermore inflicts bind next turn if she has the middle vengeance tattoo. This second part of the second coin is what makes the unbreakable clause relevant, since it means we at least get that bind through almost all the time. Skill 2 is a deluge of status effects, even more so when unsealed. This one is a free coiner with a dual status conditional that offers additional coin power. This has 4 bloody on-use conditionals. As per more modern identities from the middle, she gains offense level based on highest resin divided by 2. The second one is unbreakable coins based on middle vengeance tattoos, this one gaining an amount of them equal to said buff. All of these can be shockingly relevant to get through, but the third coin is the most important, and thankfully the conditional starts with that one. The third conditional regards the seals of the sword. If we're at first or second seal removed, she will inflict burn by the base amount of bleed on hits with this skill. Last on use is aggro gain. For the coins, we're looking at bleed on the first, alongside bind the following turn. The second is more bleed and paralyze the following turn. Finally, the last is bleed and a damage echo if she has middle vengeance tattoo. The damage echo is blunt, based on the final coin's damage equal to burn on target plus bleed on target percent, up to 20%. This is a lot, especially when you factor in the extra burn as well, since this is going to stick like a motherfucker. Skill 3. The one that we cheat out first is Stab of Vengeance. This one is a 4-coiner, last being unbreakable. The dual status here offers final power, whereas an NVA resonance does the coin power here. We get offense level based on highest resin, final power based on middle vengeance tattoo, unbreakables under the same, and burn for having released any seals. On attack end, it consumes all middle grudge on self, so this is how we get our middle vengeance tattoo stacks. Beyond there, a second attack end conditional, that being blunt damage up next turn if this was used as a counter. We should then skip over to skill 3-3, time to unpack. First is the clause that this can't be reused by external effects. It's 4 coins. There's certain levels of fear seeing that line. Beyond there, on use, if she has the middle vengeance tattoo, we get a slash damage echo on coin hit for every coin. On attack end, we then purge a seal from the sword, moving sealed to first, first to second, second to Levantine. The first coin applies burn, the second applies bleed, the third tremorless tremor, and the last envy fragility. Due to the timing in which this skill pops off, this is unfortunately a little jank. However, since almost all of her skills are envy anyway, it will matter very little in the end. Aside from that, this skill can only get used a few times, since it specifically gets used when Rising Fever goes down, and upon hitting Levantine, we don't get any more Rising Fever. We can skip over to the counter real quick, since it's just rule violation. Combat start, use an S3 instead of this 2-coiner with 6 NVA resin. Gain a shield equal to 30% of missing HP, and otherwise the 2 coins are rather straightforward in inflicting bleed, and otherwise lowering her own stagger threshold. Now let's get over to the other half of her kit, shall we? The full Levantine half of it. And it's all bloody unbreakable. That said, I will give the disclaimer here, you will not see this half come out too often. Skill 1-2 is I'll gut you like a fish. It gets coin power based on dual status, offense level based on resonance, 1 extra bleed potency dealt with middle vengeance tattoo, and both before and after attack effects. Before attack, she gains burn equal to the number of coins in this skill, while after, she loses SP. Anyhow, first coin is bleed counts while raising stagger threshold. Second coin is burn potency and counts if you have the middle vengeance tattoo. Second is burn potency and counts, and if you have the middle vengeance tattoo, bind and paralyze next turn. Now for that skill 2-2, 5 coins, gut stab. This gains final power for status instead of coin power, which makes sense, and also gains offense level equal to highest resin divided by 2. It also gains aggro. Before attack, we're gaining 5 burn on self, and after attack, we're losing more SP. The coin effects are really vanilla in comparison. Burn first, bleed second, burn count after, bleed count following, and bind alongside paralyze next turn. This is the reminder that there's a stupid deluge of buffs at this point by the time you are using this skill, including the damage echo in Pierce from Levantine. If I am bothered enough, you'll see a rough breakdown on screen of the potential effects. Moving along, we've got skill 3-2, Complete and Total Extermination. Final power and damage for burn and bleed on targets, offense level based on highest resin, coin power if we have Vengeance Tattoo, bleed potency on coin hits with the same. Before attack, we're eating 5 burn potency. After attack, lose SP, consume middle grudge, and get your blunt damage up next turn if activated as a counter. Anyhow, let's get into Echo Hell, because that's what this is. Coin 1 is burn, coin 2 is burn count, coin 3 is bleed and a slash damage echo, coin 4 is bleed count and a slash damage echo. Coin 5 is a pierce damage echo alongside a blunt damage echo, and thanks to Levantine, is also an extra pierce damage echo. This is pure and total stupidity. See GBF and the chart of bonus damage. Please implement Project Moon, otherwise we're going to have damage cap at some points. Her final skill is her skill 3-4, that being Good Girl. Your sacrifice for the family won't be forgotten. It's a fixed target, unclashable, that cannot be reused, and doesn't trigger defensive skills. It gains final power based on dual status, final power and damage from middle Vengeance Tattoo on self, more damage if Kira Ishmael is involved in the friendly fire, and 2 attack end effects, those being the consumption and gain of middle grudge, and more middle grudge gain if a targeted ally is killed. For the 1 coin here, we adjust blunt damage resistance to 1, if it is more resistant than that. Aside from that, inflicts bleed and burn potency, alongside counts before dealing a blunt damage echo. Okay, that about wraps up her kit, so let's quickly cover egos, the team composition, and finally the play pattern. In terms of egos, we're replacing Paphos Maphos with I'll Go for Scissors. This thing is way too good to pass up and is pretty much essential wherever Envy is concerned. It works amazingly within middle focused teams, mostly for the heal, resource conversion, etc. The TEF slot doesn't matter in this case, at most you can consider Sun Shower, but it does very little for us. The He slot is just Magic Bullet, no questions asked. It works on both the middle team, burn team, and even the Outis team, all with slightly different uses. In the middle, it's the End My Suffering button, wherein if an enemy isn't already dead after so many turns and somehow there's enough burns built up on the target, we nuke it out with Dark Flame. On a regular burn team, you'll likely want Magic Bullet Outis herself instead, but if blunt damage is supposed to be significant, then we can utilize the Nursefather there too. Just the Dark Flame opportunities won't come as often. Finally is the Arayashu team, wherein we can get her killed independently of the rest of the team with the right setup, getting to the execution bullet anyhow. As for that WoW slot, it's pretty painful to only see binds there. It does, however, give us a very funny passive to consider. The dead turn into ego resources. As for the team, since we're in the department of making the ID the focus for these videos, we're shoving her in a very purple team. Ahem. To get the obvious options out of the way, it's all of the middle. Every last one of them. If we're using her, we're going to be using her entire fucking kit, though we can shove Arayashu in the back for a funny backup plan later. Anyhow, let's roll the middle gauntlet again. Little Sister Dawn. Cheats out the purple version of her skill 3, benefits off of vengeance marks for coin power, also gets envy damage when friendlies get slapped. For an older ID, can still pump out some pretty funny numbers as required. When dead, she can provide blunt damage to allies instead. Little Brother Merceau. SP battery for friendly middle allies. It's a nice little bump that only gets bigger once he dies, shifting over to a +10 instead of a +6 for an ally. It's 2 less total, but +10 on someone relevant would be a more effective use really. Little Brother Sinclair. I have to say yes, Werner is a little brother. There were far too many comments calling him a young one in the lore video. Anyhow, lots of raw damage, little in the way of actual status support, but really, he provides a ton of extra damage amplification, including from Vendetta Mark and Book of Vengeance. When dead, he provides 2 defense level up and 2 offense level up as relevant. Middle Big Brother Heathcliff. Raw damage. Pure envy, binds, the works. All the support we could ever hope for. There is a metric fuck ton of bonuses for being part of the middle with this guy. Minus 20% damage taken for unopposed attacks while a defense skill is slotted. This is additional damage reduction for Outis, basically for free. Killing off Stagger lets us preserve our Stagger cheats, and more Vendetta Marks is just more damage. Aside from that, Bind's passive is huge, as is having Burn and Bleed. Just all around auto-include to make the middle level up dramatically. Next comes Ishmael. While on her own, she isn't all too much of concern. With the support of the middle backing her, she can be surprisingly competent. A lot of hard raw damage hits, far easier access to her thermal blades, and heck, thanks to the Nursefather, more damage and final power even. All that extends her usefulness quite a bit more. Well, that and straight up offering final power is damn useful for our girl here. That's the entire middle that we're going to bring along. Therefore, we can look at one final cunt to bring along. Personally, I'm leaning towards pure consistency, which means we'd be looking at charge. Specifically, tossing between Multicrack Faust and R-Corp Hongers. Faust offers plenty of scaling for raw damage, as well as lots of bonuses for Envy specifically. Skill 3 offers Envy Fragility, and Skill 2 is just a fantastic nuke. The defense skill is rather sad, but it is most definitely consistent. Hongers has far more useful affinities, mostly in getting us Gluttony and Wrath. The sinking on his skills does offer us a way to balance out the sanity deficit from countering too much over clashing. Therefore, I reckon this comes down to egos really. Hongers doesn't really have anything of real note for us to use here compared to Faust, who can drop us a Hex Nail or Fluid Sac. Beyond there, we gotta find fellas for the bench. Roshu is a very unique case here. If we take Aryashu with us, the rest of the slots basically default to the House of Spiders. That means Hongers, Faust, Yi-Sung, and the eventual Rodya would swap over to the House of Spiders instantly. Otherwise, for the easy Envy Resonance pick, take Red Eyes and Penitence for Eat and Sleep, a tiny bump for HP and SP for an Envy Resonance. Hongers is the best on either the Nursefather, Ting Tang, or Lu. Depends on how willing you are to slap out Sinclair's S1 and spam I'll go for scissors. Otherwise, Lu is the safest just to keep burn going. Rodya is mildly painful to use, despite some of the more fun options. This is mainly because the ego resource requirements for her passives. LC Rodya is the easiest, otherwise go straight for the Diishi if you're willing to build up some gloom for that blunt damage when you're hit. As for Gregor, we'd be looking at Fire Fist for that Wrath Resin burn damage, or otherwise Kurokumo Clan Captain for some offense level down. Looking at our last fella Yi-Sung, we've got some pretty funny options. If you want to get plenty of fellas killed off, LCE could be an option. You'll want a little more gluttony in there, or to rely on the resources going the right way with I'll go for scissors. Otherwise, it's a funny option to fuck around and find out for extra ego resources. Otherwise, if you believe in lining up free Wrath Resonance over Envy, you can run Lu Yi-Sung for better SP support. LCB works for the same reason, but in Gloom instead. And finally, the Painter if you'd like to have a set and forget kind of SP heal, though the timing isn't as good as the other two. With all of that out of the way, we can get around to play patterns. I will not lie to you, this is stupid easy. Paint the board purple multiple times to unleash. Okay, yeah, it really is that easy. I kinda hate that it's that simple, but that's where we're at right now. For turn 1, clash with purple for SP. Turn 2, counter to hell and back. Turn 3, counter and purple mix. Turn 4, we are now active for pretty much all of the middle members and all of their passives are good to go. This is beyond stupid. You can now nuke everything out. Rather, if something isn't dead yet, odds are you've taken a decent amount of damage now. As subsequent turns go on, you'll eventually be able to unleash Levantine, but it's not a short affair by any stretch of the imagination, seeing that you can only drop one Rising Fever a turn, seeing as Rising Fever reduces so slowly. Okay, fine. Let me outline some caveats. Due to the timing of Unpack's usage, it isn't as straightforward as 3 to 4 turns to get out. This is definitely a much longer term plan, making her shockingly good at harder story bosses or railway content. I abused the living hell out of her, especially during the railway she dropped with. The numbers are bloody insane. The amount of damage she can offer currently can rival that of the Capstone ID. If nothing else, she is crazy good at what she does. She's not here to provide any utility, so to speak, mostly pure damage. This is the fantasy people wanted with Ricardo Cliff. All that to say though, she really needs status to get going. Thankfully, Burn is one of those easier statuses to apply and keep functional. Unsealing the sword can get pretty annoying with how one-track minded she is. If you do not get that Envy Resin, you are not ticking her down. You can only run it down by one at a time to boot, meaning this can get pretty uncomfortable to do real fast. Thanks to only one of the conditions between S3 use and A resin applying though, you can mix in I'll go for scissors and let others do more in the meantime. In fact, I would recommend this as spamming all envy counters all of the time isn't exactly a surefire plan. It's a very good one, mind you, but HP is going to be a bit of a luxury by the time the fight is concluding. All that to say, if lowered HP is the idea to get off her clean freebie slash, good. End the encounter by slashing through an ally. You'll do even more damage that way. Potentially force out a stagger, that kind of thing. Regardless, before Levantine, she's a fantastic unit, cream of the crop far as the middle goes. And with it, she goes so far beyond that I am liable to say this is one of the hardest hitting IDs we've ever had, and that includes the man with Furioso. Despite the lack of damage conditionals within her individual skills, the passives more than make up for it, and give everything a boost, rather than differing boosts per. If there's one weakness to account for, it's the lack of attack weight. But that isn't the biggest issue, with most big bosses only being one entity. If I had one specific worry when it comes to her though, it would be all the damage echoes. This is 100% a scary route to go through for power creep. He is bloody insane for it, and starting to look like a Grand Blue Fantasy character. Thankfully, it isn't at the level of team-wide echoes yet. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in to another guide. I know this one probably isn't as beefy as you'd expect. Please complement it with the Ricardo guide to get the most out of it. But she's just that straightforward to use. That, and I could plug her in for the first time ever during Railway. Just that simple. If you enjoyed the content, please like the video, and subscribe if you'd like to see more down the line. I'll be joining quite a lot of other content creators for Absolute Pride Resonance this year. Personally, planned at the moment is a book club and tabletop one-shot, but we'll get more details for you about those when the month starts. As for the pleasantries, if you'd like to support me directly, Ko-Fi and Patreon are open for that. You can be like these two, Artie and Derp. Thanks for tuning in once again, or using me as second monitor content. Appreciate it.